The 24-25 Women's Super League is on winter break and it gives us a perfect chance to assess every team's season so far. We discuss whether they've met expectations in the first half of the season, what transfers they need to do in January, and predict the second half of the campaign. Now we're on to Everton. The Toffees had a torrid start to the campaign, but strong results towards the end of the year have seen them climb up the WSL table. We look at how they can take momentum from these results and how much impact the addition of Kelly Gargo will have on their attacking prowess. This is our mid-season review for Everton. Alright, let's get into it then. Today we're going to be talking about Everton and conducting our WSL mid-season review for Everton. It's been a season of mixed fortunes for the Toffees, Harry. A season that started awfully. Shall we start there then? First 7 games of the season, Everton pretty poor.
Really poor, to be honest. And I mean, they struggled to find a goal. I think back to like the West, even the games that they did do well in that West Ham game. It took West Ham to stick it in their own net for them to find the back of the net there.
Yeah.
Everton really struggled in front of goal, and because of that, when you're struggling to find goals, it means that you're just not coming forward. It puts you under a load of pressure at the back, and they shipped loads of goals in the early stages as well. So they were conceding a few, they weren't scoring any, and they looked in a really bad position. They were rock bottom of the table after 6-7 games, and there was a lot of pressure mounting on Brian Sorensen.
Yeah, I think defensively this season they've actually been quite good. I mean, there was the drubbing against Brighton on the opening day of the season, which was particularly poor, and obviously they got tanked by Chelsea. But other than that, they've not really had a drubbing. The issues for Everton this season have been in front of goal, and those appear to have been remedied in recent weeks. Obviously, they had the Crystal Palace game early November, which is where they scored their first goal of the season,
Well done.
which is a good way to start. They then took momentum from that and went and beat Liverpool in possibly the worst refereeing performance we've seen all year.
Yeah, it's up there, and it's one of those where, yes, it did absolutely hand Everton the win, but they won the game, and that's what matters.
They got the result, and and it wasn't like they didn't play. It wasn't that they played poorly. They should have lost.
Yes.
Like Liverpool should have had about 3 penalties, and the Everton penalties not even near the box. But there you go. But there was some good defending in there to hold Liverpool off at another place of the game. So I think Everton can still take pride in that result, and obviously it's a huge result against their rivals. Then more recently, obviously they beat Manchester City, which was a huge result, and that was the game for me where I started to think, you know what, Everton have actually got this. They've got what it takes to survive, because in that game they set up fantastically. Brian Sorensen did a fantastic job. They were so narrow, so compact at the back. Man City didn't look like scoring at all. And then obviously Everton gave away a penalty and Fowler scored, but until that they didn't really look like conceding at all. And going forwards, they were so effective on the counter-attack. And, well, they should have been more effective on the counter-attack. They were so effective at getting into counter-attacking opportunities. If Tony Payne could score, they would have had a few goals in that game.
And I think I'm really happy with what Everton have done and in terms of surrounding this game. In terms of, yes, the defensive stuff was really good. And they did come forward a load in that game. But for me, I think, yes, you can praise Everton for coming forward, but you also have to say that Man City practically handed it to them on the counter because they put barely any defenders back in.
City's rest defence was non-existent. I was about to say abhorrent. It wasn't even that. There wasn't a rest defence.
And it was so simple for Everton just to run at them. And literally, Everton would just run forward and there'd be no City defenders there because they'd all gone up front. And it's why I'm glad Everton have gone out and done some business. They haven't been blinded by this City game. They haven't gone, we scored 2 goals against Man City, we must be brilliant in attack now. They've realised they've still got work to do, and they've gone and fixed their problem, hopefully. But
I think they still recognise that they have scored 5 goals this season. Katja Snows has 1 that was from the penalty spot. Their top scorer is Hanuka Hayashi with 2. She's the only player to have scored more than 1 goal. I think they still see that's an issue, and understandably so. That City game, while it's true that City's rest defence was exposed, it's also true that the reason that was able to happen was because City couldn't break Everton down.
Yeah.
So they were committing loads to trying to overload Everton, and they simply couldn't because Everton was so good defensively. So then Everton would win that ball back, and then they'd be able to send it long, and then you'd have a situation where Tony Payne was running in behind against Alexandri and Kennedy, and she was winning that battle very effectively. And so, and again, if she'd managed to score, it would have been the icing on the cake. But they were tactically very effective in that game. It just didn't materialise into a result. But overall, a really good performance. They'll be hoping to take belief from that into what is a very kind January run. They play Aston Villa to start it at Goodison Park, then West Ham away, then Leicester at home. If that's 9 points, Everton are safe.
Yeah.
And that is a really, really nice position to be in. If Kelly Gargo comes and hits the ground running, fantastic stuff. That's what they need, really, because if they can get goals out of her, and perhaps she can raise the level of performance from players around her, they could put themselves in a really good position.
Yeah, we are in a world now where Everton are 3 games away from being 7th in the WSL and being safe from relegation. And that is Brian Sorensen and Everton. They have to get that. They have to come back from the winter break ready and raring to go. And if I'm Sorensen, I think you've got to tell your players that. Don't tell them they're safe after 3 games, but you have to tell. I think you have to use that to fire them up, to get them going from the off, straight after the winter break. Minute 1 against Tottenham in the cup, and then Aston Villa in the league. They've got to be ready to go. There's a chance they can build a really good run, pick up some brilliant points, and all but confirm themselves in the WSL next season. And I think they've got to use that. And as you say, Gargo coming in could be a key addition in that front line. If they remain as solid as they have been at the back for the first half of the season, and they start to put some balls in the back of the net in the attacking third, they could find themselves mid-table at the end of the season, and suddenly they go from being bottom of the league and talked about being relegated to being comfortably in the mid-pack. And that would be a brilliant, and that would be a step up from last season, and suddenly this campaign turns into a brilliant achievement for the Toffees.
Which is weird because, I think I look at this Everton side now and they're probably not as good as they were last season. I think they're now they've had to become a very defensive side because their recruitment, that investment hasn't been there. In the summer, they lost players like Martina Piemonte and other attackers. Not Vitricky, sorry, she joined. But they lost attackers, and all they did to replace them was Melissa Lawley, who I don't think was a fantastic signing. And Katja Snoys hasn't been good enough this season. Tony Payne has looked sharp. She just needs to start scoring.
And when she's played, she hasn't played yet.
Well, that is true as well. So I think there are some positives now for Everton, but there's still some issues facing them. Let's talk January. What should it look like for the Toffees? Obviously, Kelly Gargo already coming in. That is a very important signing.
Very much so. I think they've gone and done. I like that initiative from Sorensen. I like that business from Everton. In terms of they had a main issue and they've addressed it on the first day of the window. Bang, got that. Actually, it was before the window. They announced it before the window started. But huge addition, brought her in, dealt with their biggest problem. For me, I think that for now they've addressed their main issue. I'd maybe look at centre half because they have technically they have only got like 1 or 2 first team in terms of Hobson's 17. Van Havermet is more of a midfielder.
I think Izzy Hobson's been really good.
She has been. It's incredible that. I do think Everton got a bit fortunate. They have managed to call on her, and she has delivered pretty well. Because it's you don't really expect to put a 17-year-old into your starting 11 week in week out, and her to deliver the performances that she has. But she has played very well, and I think overall, Everton in January just have to build on what they've already got and just shore up certain areas. I think there's certain players for me that perhaps have let them down in certain places, and they will look to try and change that. But I think overall, Everton pride themselves on being a unit, and they've proven at times this season that no matter who the 11 are out there, they are going to remain solid. They've got a top quality goalkeeper who can keep them in the game at time, keep them in games at times. So they're looking pretty handy. Obviously, if they hadn't gone and got Gargo already, we'd be sitting here screaming, get a striker. But they've gone and got a striker.
Indeed, a little information on Kelly Gargo in terms of who she was at FC Nantes Division 1 Feminine out in France. She's fairly tall. I want to say about 5'10", 5'11", which is fairly tall.
Yeah.
Then compared to the average height of women and the average height in the WSL, that is a fairly tall player. She's very physical, very good with her back to goal, very good at hold up play. Her record in Division 1 Feminine isn't exactly incredible, but her hold-up play is really good. Her numbers look quite decent in that regard. So while she may not add a ton of goals, she's still scored more than all of Everton players combined, I think, this season. So she will add something to that attack, and even if it's not goals from her, I think she'll bring other players into the game.
Exactly. It's the hold-up ability that screams absolute volumes to me, because what it does is it means that you have more of a chance of retaining the ball in the final third, which then allows the better, more creative players to get on the ball and have chances. But it also means if you're holding the ball up there, that the other team haven't got it in your end, which is always a bonus for Everton. And I just think that the strength, she'll get up there and she'll put up a fight against every centre half in the league. She'll try and bully players off the ball. There'll be a presence for Everton to aim for, and what it does, it just unlocks them more. Because if they are backs against the wall and they smash the ball long, they've got Gargo up there now who can just hold it up and let the rest of their team get up 10 yards. And, if they punt a ball into the box, there's a player to aim for. Snoyce was pretty tall, but didn't have the physical element for me to challenge with big centre, the best centre-halves in the league. Gargo's got that. She can go toe-to-toe. She can muscle the centre-halves off the ball and be a bit of a bully up there. And sometimes being a bit of a brute as a striker is exactly what Everton need.
Yeah, in terms of other players then, Katarina Kuhl, what are our thoughts there? Obviously was on loan with Everton last season. She's not really played for Arsenal. There have been rumours. Do you think that's a sign that would work out?
It makes sense, and it's an experienced player who knows the league, knows the club, knows the system. Had a decent time here at Everton last season, so it makes sense. It's a player that should come in and play pretty well and deliver because she knows what role she's going to be played in. She knows how Sorensen wants her to play it. So it makes sense for me. It's adding a player who I think is is quality and will help just provide a little bit more steel in that midfield and just give them a bit more of an outlet, a chance to get on the ball and to have a little bit more control. And that's what Gargo's doing as well. So if they do bring in Kuhl and they've got Gargo, they've got players who can retain the ball and give Everton a little bit more. Because if you have more of the ball in the game, you have a bit more control on the match. And you're not just stood in 2 lines of 5 and teams like Chelsea are just batting you time and time again. Because that has been a problem. At times that has been... Everton have got away with that at times this season where they have... the Arsenal game, they did just stand in 2 or 3 lines and let Arsenal struggle to pass through them. And that did work.
They got away with it against Arsenal. Arsenal really should have scored a goal in that game.
Yeah.
I think Katarina Kuhl gives you another option in midfield. I think that's a much more creative, much more attacking player than the other options they've got in there. And I think that would be very helpful. Again, just having options and quality and depth is so important. Yeah. It gives you, off the bench, better rotational options. I think it's a signing that should work out. She knows the club. She's played with the team is quite similar. She's played with a lot of the players. She's played under Brian Sorensen. It should fit like a glove. So I think it's a transfer you can make with very little risk. And so I think that's a smart one. And even if it doesn't particularly work out, there should be resale value there. Yeah. Because she is still quite a young player at 22, I want to say 23. So I think that should be a signing they are all over. In terms of other options, I think you're right in potentially a centre-back. I think they could, that would help them out somewhat. Other than that, I think they're not. It's not a bad squad. If we're thinking, what are they desperate for this window? They're all right in most areas. I think Courtney Brosnan's a very decent goalkeeper. I think Justine van Havermet's versatility and quality, both in and out of possession, is so helpful. I think they've got good wing backs now. I think Sarah Holmgaard has shown that when she's fit, she is a top player. There will be a worry that she can't stay fit because she has already been injured this season, but Vircha Kisari, while she wasn't great there, will learn that role more throughout the campaign. So, I don't think they're in a terrible situation right now.
It's one of those where, now they're
great at one, actually.
Yeah, now they're signing Kelly Gargo. If they're getting Kuhl, I look at that squad and I think that comfortably stays in the division.
Yeah.
But it does have to be said that sometimes it's not as cut and dry as that. And, as we spoke about that run earlier. They've got a really nice run after January. They could be 3 games there. If they win all of them, they're really safe. But you do have to put that the other way round. And if they lose all 3 of them, then suddenly they are in a really, really bad situation. And that is the reality of what we spoke about it yesterday with Crystal Palace, is that it's such a tight relegation battle that a couple losses puts you in a terrible position, but a couple wins puts you in a fantastic position. So it's really hard to gauge who's where at the moment. But for Everton, with the recruitment they've already done and with the recruitment that they're rumoured to make, I think there's more chance that they're going to be on the good end of those results rather than the bad side.
Yeah, I would agree so. Let's talk second half of the season then and some predictions. Let's start with domestic cups. Everton, obviously, FA Cup tie against Tottenham coming up next Sunday. I could see Everton win that.
Yeah, Tottenham at home. I think they'll fancy it. Hopefully we see Kelly Gargo get her debut and get in the action and we can see what she's like against WSL opposition, just even though it's not in the league. I think it's a game everyone will fancy themselves, especially being the home side. It's a Tottenham side who have looked really good coming forwards, but have looked so shaky at the back. Again, it's hard to judge what Tottenham are going to be like. They might come back after the winter break, and if they come back and they start moving the ball around like they did last year, they could be a really tough customer. But based on the evidence of the first half of the season, I think Everton have got a good chance. A good chance of beating Tottenham. Yeah,
Everton have only lost to Tottenham once since 2021. Admittedly, that result was only a few weeks ago. but I think they will be keen
Yeah.
to get back a positive record against Tottenham. I think it's a game they really could be winning. You know, that they are stronger at home than they are away. That game was away. Tottenham only won that 1-2-1. And again, they relied heavily on Beth England. If you can keep her quiet, you can really suffocate how Tottenham want to play. So I think there's a good chance Everton could get something from that. If not, their full focus will be on the league. I think they're probably going to be safe right now. I think looking at that Villa, they played Villa twice in the space of a few months because they have them again at the start of March. I think we don't really know where Villa are going to be come March time, but we certainly know that by the 18th they may not have a manager because they don't have one yet. And it could well be Sean Gota, but you would then say, well, I think Brian Thompson will probably outdo Gota, and I think at the moment Everton look better on the pitch. A lot of it relies on how well I think Kelly Gargo settles, but I think they can beat Villa over 2 games. I think they can beat West Ham. I think they can beat Leicester. So they should be all right.
Yeah, I think Leicester and West Ham, they'll definitely fancy themselves against. I think Villa is going to be an interesting one because as we spoke about and as we saw in the Villa-West Ham game, Villa have the quality to beat all of the bottom lot. Their strongest 11 is the strongest out of the bottom 6. But as you say, can Sorensen do what he's done? He came up with something really good against Gareth Taylor. He's come up with really good ideas whenever they need them. Can he do that again? Because I don't think Sean Goat has quite got the same ideas. Lovely bloke, and at the moment everything for Villa is
a great player in his day.
Yeah, everything for Villa at the moment is just to motivate and be happy and to name their strongest 11. And it's one of those where put those 11 Villa players in a simple system and they'll win games. Everton are going to have to try and upset that and see what they can do. But definitely, they will fancy themselves. And suddenly, as you say, they play Villa in quick succession. They have got Chelsea in there, but take Chelsea out, they could take 12 points from their next 5 or 6 games. That is fine. That is absolutely fine.
And then Crystal Palace at the end of March. I mean, admittedly, if they are in a tough spot, those final 5 games of United, City, Brighton, Liverpool and Tottenham would be damning. But I think if they're in a good position, they'll probably be all right.
I think it's fair to say that the next 5 games for Everton make or break their season, really. Next 5 or 6. Yeah. If they come out with a positive record from the next 5, they'll be comfortably safe. If they lose, if they have a tough next 5, they could be in big trouble.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you there. Make some good points. Again, I think a lot of it depends on what happens in January. I think if Kelly Gargo's a huge,
she could come in and score loads of goals.
Exactly, and if she finds that level immediately, she's great. Yeah, I think Katarina Kuhl would be a good pickup if they could add another defender potentially. I think that leaves them with a really well balanced, really well constructed squad. To be fair, I wouldn't even mind another striker joining. I think there's room in this squad. I think when you look at their plethora of attacking options, Emma Bissell, Katja Noyce and Melissa Lawley, none of them have cut it this season.
No.
I think Tony Payne has shown glimpses, but still very raw. I think she could work quite nicely in a front 2 potentially with Kelly Gargo. I think they could work off each other quite well. Or as a wide player who then obviously gets forward when they attack. I think that could work out quite nicely.
Maybe just put Hiyashi up front.
Yeah, she's been really good.
2 goals from midfield. I don't think Hiyashi's really known for her goal scoring ability.
I think their midfield's actually been quite good this season. I think Claire Wheeler's had a good season. I think Hanoka Hayashi's a good player. So that's not really been where the issue's been. But I thought Everton against City was a huge improvement. If they can take momentum from that into second half of the season, they've added a striker now, potentially add Katarina Kuhl, maybe look at other options if they become available. I think they're good. Other than that, for me, their focus will then move to the summer because I think they've got the squad now to stay in the league.
Yeah.
And it's about how do they get back up the table because Everton are a side with... It's a big name, big club.
Yeah.
They want to be getting back up the WSL table.
And I think you have to give credit to Everton and Brian Sorensen. They were in a tough spot to start the season. They had no momentum. They hadn't found the back of the net. So they did really well to turn it around, to get some points on the board just before Christmas in that November-December period. And now they've set themselves up really nicely to attack the second half of the season. And if they get it right again, I think we'll sit at the end of the season giving a lot of praise to Everton and congratulating Brian Sorensen on the job he's done.
Yeah, indeed. I think that about rounds up everything we want to talk about today. If you have enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new to this channel, and do get involved in the comments down below. Give your thoughts on everything we've spoken about. Other than that, you can go and check out the rest of our mid-season reviews on the channel now. We've been doing one for every WSL club, and we continue to do that over the next week, so look out for all of those. And then obviously last week as well, we did videos looking at one transfer every WSL club should sign and grading every WSL club season. So those both involve Everton. If you want to go and check those videos out, you can find all that on our channel, the Women's Football Chat. But that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.